You're listening to the DownShift podcast, where four mates from Melbourne take you trackside for all the action in Formula One, breaking down the races, the drama, and everything in between, all with a little banter and a lot of passion. If you love motorsport and cars, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you're always on the grid with us. And if you want to support the team, leave us a 5-star review. So let's get into another action-packed episode. It's lights out, drop the clutch, and let's get racing. Hello and welcome to the Downshift as we prepare to preview the Austrian Grand Prix after a weekend off from racing and a bit of controversy at the tail end of the Canadian Grand Prix as well. Dan, I know you were mentioning before we got onto air what you were thinking about that. Thoughts?
I was wondering, like a lot of people, whether Lando was going to get any penalty points on his licence after last weekend's efforts, or even some time penalty maybe to carry over to this week. There was a bit of a lot of people were talking about it. Bit of mixed results, so a bit mixed response there, I think.
I think as we look at the consistency from the stewards is as we're looking at what happened with Max bumping into George, Max got 10 seconds penalty for that incident. At least Lando should have got 10 seconds, even though it was pointless anyway, to have some consistency in regards to it.
Wasn't quite as deliberate as what Max did on George, though. He was aiming for allegedly an invisible gap that wasn't there. He was trying to go up there, whereas Max lined George up and punted him.
Yeah, I think the stewards might have been a bit firmer with Lando if he had have impacted Oscar's result as well, but it was sort of self-penalising in a way because he slipped back so many positions. But yeah, is what it is. But a dumb move, entirely Lando's fault. I don't know what was it. Who was it? Jacques Villeneuve or someone hinting that Oscar was doing something that wasn't so nice. Like, give me a break, really.
I think Oscar did well to defend that corner. He just moved across slightly and moved across to the line. And I think he did well that he did it quite early. He didn't do it just at the last minute because that would have looked quite deliberate. But Oscar's just a clever driver. Like he knows what's going on around him. He lost that position, a couple of corners earlier and managed to muscle it back around the next corner. And yeah, it was determined to hang on to it. Lando was determined to get it and didn't let it happen.
It's stupid that a commentator would then make comments about Oscar doing the wrong thing when the very first thing that came out of Lando's mouth was, "I'm sorry, that was all my fault. I'm sorry." There's no blame for Oscar in that situation. If Oscar had done something a bit 50-50, someone like Lando would have said something about it on the radio or would have been frustrated, but he wasn't. He was annoyed with himself because he cocked up. Simple.
And so with that, as we go into the Austrian Grand Prix, we talk about moves around corners and again, defensive moves and aggressive moves. We'll get onto that a little bit later on as we look back into last year. But for start off, we've got the Austrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring. This is one of the shorter circuits of the calendar. It is the fourth smallest track on the F1 calendar, only larger than Interlagos, Mexico City and Monaco. It's 71 laps for a race distance of 306.4 kilometres. The fastest lap time is 1 minute 5.619, which was recorded by Carlos Sainz back in 2020. So in regards to this, the Red Bull Ring is nestled in the Asturian Mountains and we had its first F1 race in 1996 after it was remodeled for a more modern, shorter racetrack. And in fact, it's in the second of 3 years of its next rejuvenation. So it'll be interesting to see how that's going along there, but still a bit of a construction site around the track as well.
That's kind of a long-standing lap record, isn't it? 5 years old, 4 years old? That's one of the older ones. I mean, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. It can depend a bit on tyre and temperature. He might have got a good toe as well, but it's it's a short circuit, but it's good for overtaking too because there's 3 DRS zones in this track as well.
Yeah, it's a nice track in regards to the fact those 3 DRS zones have a couple of uphill right-handers. The name of the game here is power and speed through corners 1, 2, and 3. And then as we get into the move from sector 2 into 3, it becomes a little bit of a go track. So with a series of quick corners with an exhilarating right-hander into the finish straight. So given that this is home to Red Bull, the grandstands will be awash with orange as the Orange Army, not papaya, come to support their hero Max Verstappen and Red Bull.
Yes, there will be a lot of supporters for Max Verstappen here, and historically they've been very fast at this track too. The Red Bull's a slippery car in a straight line, doesn't have a lot of drag, but it was also last year. If we look at what happened last year, we can chat about that now. I guess it was a strong track for McLaren as well, and Lando and Max, raced pretty hard.
Since you brought it up, let's talk about Papaya, Nath.
Papaya rules.
Didn't you say the McLaren was good at this track? Expecting
Well,
what from this week?
They had a quick car last year, and in particular was Lando and Max coming wheel to wheel a couple of times. A bit of frustration between the two of those guys racing hard, and Max not wanting to give way to Lando, and Lando wanting to establish himself, I guess, in a quick car, and not back off when it came to trying for some overtakes.
So based on what we've seen this season so far, you've got 5 fairly tight corners on this track. Who's going to come out in terms of what we think of being able to do the tight corners and acceleration? Like, is it going to be Verstappen with the Red Bull, or is, Mercedes, Papayas? Who's going to get up there?
I think McLaren with their downforce and that package is going to be good through that middle and last sector. The long straights is probably where they'd lack a little bit compared to a car like the Red Bulls. I'm thinking it'd be, so when I say Red Bull, I mean Max. I don't know whether he's going to turn up to this race or
10th,
not.
11th, it's fine. It's all good.
But I think it's going to be McLaren and Red Bull as the top runners here.
So you don't think Ferrari's going to get their stuff together for this race and actually put a reason one together?
Oh, they could get lucky, but I don't think Ferrari know what is working for them, what direction they need to go. Hamilton's still scratching his head. So, I mean, if they roll out of the truck with a good setup and a fast car and they can build on that, then they could have a good round. I think the other driver who's been performing really well and could do well here is George in that Mercedes. If they can manage their tyre wear well, which they really did in Canada. It could be quite close. I think McLaren will have a step up again this round, though. I think they'll be the ones to beat. That's my gut feel, based on how they did last year and the tracks they've been performing well at this year. But behind them, I think it could be quite tight.
So, mentioning last year, just for a little bit of a review, for those paying attention, it was a sprint race last year as well. Thank goodness it's not this year, so we can actually allow the cars plenty of time to settle the cars in and to get those setups right. To Huppy's point is, this is the race that we saw McLaren really start to show their turnaround. And from this race onwards, we started to see a lot of top positions for both Oscar and Lando as it went to the tail end of the year for them to be able to take out the championship. In the main race, we continue to watch the battle between the Alpines, between Ocon and Gasly, who were continuing to fight it out since Monaco with their issues within the team. But the main thing was for turn 3, and this is where it started to get a bit saucy at the tail end of the race. We saw a slow stop for Max in the pits. It was actually 6.5 seconds where they had trouble with the rear left, getting that off and then the tyre back on, and followed by him going wide as he actually went pretty hot through his outlap. So on cold tyres, almost went off the track. So allowing Norris to close the gap, which was at lap 52, 7 seconds down to 1.7, which allowed Norris the opportunity to really start to attack Max for overtakes. The first attempt was on lap 55, unsuccessful. Then an off-track overtake on lap 59, so Norris actually had to give up the position because for claiming that late move on Max. Then it was in lap 63 that Norris held the overtake while Verstappen went wide, and the radio chatter went red hot in regards to this because it was all talking about giving back positions and unsafe defending into the corner. But that was all for naught when on the very next lap on the same corner, the two cars made contact, resulting in the damaged front wing and DNF for Norris and a puncture which dropped Verstappen back to 5th place.
Cracking action. Great to watch. Neither driver wanted to back out. It was really good to watch. I enjoyed that.
Hopefully we get more of that this weekend.
But hopefully it's Oscar and Max, not Lando and Max. I'm going for Oscar for this one, but we'll see how we go.
As opposed to what you've done the entire season?
Oscar's he's been the form driver. I've been picking him from early rounds. Don't you worry.
For almost all the rounds.
Pretty much.
But again, to that point is that you would want it to be a tight battle. You don't want Oscar to come off second best to Max like it was with Lando. And I think Oscar's probably a little bit more settled and considered in regards to his racing. So we'll look for the right opportunity.
It'd be interesting to see if they do get close, how aggressive Oscar is and whether he does give way to Max, if Max is, leading into a corner or something, because Lando certainly wanted to establish himself and not back out in any way. But it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully the McLarens are a little bit ahead of Max anyway, but Max will always be dangerous at this track, always.
Or maybe Oscar will defend like he did against Norris.
Well, yeah, maybe McLaren will be a bit smarter in how they manage their drivers and have a bit more communication from the pit wall as well. Not that I think that caused their incident in Canada, but it probably didn't help that they didn't implement some sort of team rule or advice to the drivers. Yeah.
I think we said it last time, but it felt like something was going to get said when they were getting close to each other in those last few laps. It's like somebody's going to be on the radio saying something to them because you could see it. You could kind of see it coming.
I mean, they'll have pre-race discussions, so they'll know, yes, you're allowed to race. We're not going to do this. We won't do that. And that's been the rule. But then the onus is on the drivers to make intelligent decisions. And so far this year, like we talked about, Lando has made some unintelligent decisions and mistakes. So, if you can't rely on your driver to make intelligent decisions, you should tell them what to do.
And I think based on the previous weekend, they may get an extra set of instructions to go this weekend.
Don't crash into your teammate. That's the number one instruction.
That could be number one, yes.
When you drive for a team, do not hit your teammate. So, yeah, that's the rule.
At least do it close to the pit so you don't have too far to walk back. Minimise your walk of shame.
There's always a positive. Always a positive.
But there was definitely a change in tone with the team because we had both Zach and Andrea saying, look, this is inevitable that the two drivers are going to come together and something's going to happen through this championship. With Canada, with Lando just making, and it was a brain fade, it was a wrong decision. Oscar was just slowly moving to the left. Lando should have gone right, faded and went left. Because he apologised straight away, at least Andrea was saying that, hey, he's owned it. So it's a no harm, no foul. It really isn't going to be much of an additional conversation within the team. It was Andrea who also said it is unacceptable any McLaren to make contact with another car and especially another McLaren. So
100%.
he made it very clear that he wasn't happy with the move and it wasn't to happen again.
Well, yeah, and it could have taken both of them out of points entirely. So it could have been disastrous for their drivers' championships. So, yeah,
let alone the constructors.
But I think what would it take for Lando to get his confidence back? Like I feel like at this point, even if he scratched out a win by 1 or 2 seconds over someone, yeah, that'd be good for him. But I really think for him to get back into a really positive state of mind and get confident again, he would need to have a strong win somewhere to really boost his confidence back up. But he just hasn't looked like making that happen for the past 4 or 5 rounds.
Well, not only a strong win, I think he's going to have some serious overtaking and get that confidence back that he can drive the car, he can attack when he needs to. And whether he's overtaken George, Kimi, Max, whoever it's going to be, not only a win, but I think he actually needs to drive and actually make his way through a pack in order to actually regain some of that driving confidence that he just seems to have lost.
With a bit more patience and some decisiveness when he makes a move, yeah.
That could help as well.
And listening to Nico Rosberg as he was talking about the mental toughness and the preparation, Nico on one of the F1 podcasts was going on about the coaching that he had, and he was having coaching with a Harvard sleep professor. He had a psychiatrist that he was spending 2 to 3 hours with a day, getting himself prepared for Lando. I think that's what's really going to be necessary. Lando was the party boy out having a good time, drinking. You remember last year he came with the Band-Aid across his nose because he'd been cut with a glass. For me, I think Lando's got to wait for the summer break. I don't think he's going to be in the right mindset for Austria or even Great Britain, so for Silverstone. He just needs to drive cleanly, maintain some good points up the top, not worry about getting first, take the summer break, which actually when I was looking at the calendar it's massive. After Silverstone, it's essentially 3 weeks until Belgium, but then also after Belgium, it's a couple of weeks before Hungary. So there's about 5 weeks there where he could actually bed down with a good sports psychologist, be able to do some work on himself and come back stronger and fresher into the second half of the season.
Just to clarify, you think that he needs to go away and have a massive bender in order to reset to then
no,
refocus
the
again? It sounds like you want him to go to schoolies for a week just to have a massive blowout and then come back, sober up obviously, and then jump back in the car again.
No, quite the opposite. I really think that he needs to bed down, lock himself away, work on him and his mental strength and toughness, so that he can come back focused on the task at hand.
There's no time though. You can't take a month and a half to do that and wait till after Silverstone. Like, I think Silverstone is probably, I think for Lando, Silverstone would be so far the most important race of the year, perhaps the whole year for him, because if he can get a win at Silverstone, for example, at his home race,
Yep.
British Grand Prix, going into that break with some confidence, massive for Lando. If he can't get it together or makes a mistake at Silverstone and Oscar wins again, or Max or someone else, yeah, then it gets tough. You've really got to push away all distractions, reset, and go again after the break. But I think Silverstone, he may not think about it too much or feel it, but there'll be a lot of pressure on him to do well at Silverstone. That's a big race for him.
And George.
And George too, yeah, but mostly for Lando, because Lando's in the car that could win the title.
But to your point, Happy, this is where we've talked about it multiple times. When it's a home race, the pressure on a driver is so intense that the expectations and also the commitments, it's just nonstop versus any other race. So you're right. For him, it would be a great mental shift to win that race.
Yep.
But to put the pressure on himself as well, that could bring that undone.
And the drivers that can manage that, they can manage their time, they can focus on the race, and they can execute under that pressure. Hamilton at Silverstone, Leclerc at Monaco, they're the drivers who have done really well in those situations. Lando needs to be able to do that as well to mark himself as a potential world champion.
So no pressure, but he needs to win.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That'll suit Lando to a T.
Won't go to water at all. It'll be fine.
And Oscar will just breeze in underneath and take the victory.
You see, Oscar, maybe Lando's, maybe he's desperate for the win, not thinking about points every race. Whereas Oscar is more consistent. He's not doing a half-assed overtake attempt to try and gain a position that's risky. He's letting Kimi go through at turn 2 at Canada because it's a safe option. You can't win the race on the first lap. He's maximising points every round and has done a very good job of that so far.
Yeah, him letting Kimi go past worked out well for him in Canada, I think.
It did. He probably should have let Lando go past as well. Avoided potential damage.
So as we look at 2025, from 2024, we had Max on pole. George took the win, and that was his second GP win of his.
Only because Lando and Max took each other out, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I mean, yeah. Look, Max was 11 odd seconds ahead beforehand, so they took each other out. George took first. Oscar was only about 1.6 seconds behind George, so he actually overtook Carlos on lap 66, and then was able to make up the pace towards George and give him a couple more laps. It would have been a fight between the two of them. So as we come into the 2025 race, we're looking at this. This is now, as we talk about the constructors, we're looking at the battle for second. We saw that Mercedes has now jumped up to second place and leading Ferrari by 16 points. So as we look at the two teams, thoughts on Mercedes?
I'm actually hoping they have a strong race, to be honest. I think the fact that Kimi did so well last weekend as well, provided their power units don't, crap out and cark it halfway through the race, I think they could potentially both be strong. Russell should be quite strong at this circuit as well. And it's just whether they can actually put the weekend together, I suppose, and run two competitive cars the entire time, or whether they'll have fade away or something like that. But no, I actually hope you'll see my predictions later on. But I hope Russell's up towards the top end.
I mean, they've got the car, they've got the drivers. They should be doing okay.
It's a great battle between the two teams.
I don't think they're going to win it yet, but they're going to be at least at the pointy end of things.
On one of those 3 steps at the end,
Yeah. No, it could be either Ferrari or Mercedes, but it's to have, both drivers on each team being fairly consistent, driving well. I think it'll be a ding dong battle till the end of the year, the way they're going. So it's good to watch.
So 16 points between Mercedes and Ferrari. What's interesting is also between Leclerc and Hamilton, it's 25 points the difference between them as well. So Lewis is just behind Charles as well. So seeing what's happening there. And we've also got George, who still does not have a contract for 2026.
Yeah, interesting that. There's been a few rumours about what's going on there, and I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a social media post by Valtteri Bottas today admiring a Cadillac and the seat in the Cadillac. So there's, things will be happening over the summer break, that's for sure. But it'll be interesting to see what George does. I don't know what the situation is there.
Well, I was reading the other day too. I think it's Ferrari are the only two cars to have completed every lap of the Formula Ones this year.
Being very consistent.
Everyone else has had a crash out. Yeah. Well, not fastest, but at least they're consistent in actually getting through the entire races.
Well, they're still beating Red Bull. So, I mean, from that perspective, it is Max Verstappen racing only.
Well, I was going to say.
And to be fair, the safety car completed every lap that it went out on too.
This is true. Yep.
True. I mean, and look, can Yuki help out in their team championship? Like they're 20 points behind Ferrari. Like they're within striking distance. If Yuki can get it together for the rest of the season, then it should be we know it should be a three-way battle at the moment between Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull. But if Mercedes and Ferrari both keep having the consistency they've got with their driver pairings, then they're going to leave Red Bull behind in fourth position, which would be a terrible outcome for that team after the past 6 or 7 years or 10 years. It would be a terrible, terrible result.
Yuki would get better results if he didn't keep starting from the pit lane, I think.
Yeah, I think he definitely needs to qualify better, but it must be tough for him just trying to extract the last, so you can't even say it's a 10th. He's been, 2, 3, 4 tenths behind Verstappen. It's in F1, it's a big gap to your teammate. It's a big gap. So we'll see.
So then hypothetically, if they finish fourth this year, does that mean Horner goes to Ferrari and takes Fred's job?
Imagine Horner at Ferrari.
No, I think Ferrari's made numerous approaches and he's declined them all from what I read. But
at this point,
well, until now, I mean, there are definitely teams be interested in him. Like he's built a very successful team. I don't know if the culture's that great at the moment, so maybe his stock's not quite as high as it used to be. But yeah, who's to say he doesn't go for greener pastures if they don't have the driver options for next year, or if Max decides to go and race for Aston Martin or someone else, then I don't know, maybe he would consider a move.
I think your point there, Huppy, in regards to Max, if Max leaves, I think we'd see a massive shake-up in the whole Red Bull franchise. There'd be a look at from the top to the bottom as to what that looks like. We've got some great people in the team, but it rots from the head, and we've seen issues there in regards to Horner. Obviously, Helmut is quite a strong force within that team as well. But if they lose the world champion driver to another team, heads will roll.
They're going to have a real problem if that happens, because there's no one like secondary drivers that are anywhere near what they need to be.
Well, that's it. You can't lose Max Verstappen and expect to be as competitive next year. And who do you go? Is George waiting? Maybe George is waiting to see if Max ends up fourth, at the mid-season break, and Max wants an exit, and they do a swap. I don't know. There's various things that could happen at the moment.
Why would George go to Red Bull though?
More money, better looked after, more potential.
Definitely,
Kimmy's the golden boy. This is what happened with Verstappen, and Ricciardo knew that Verstappen was the favoured driver. They were going to build the team around him. So longer term, that's who they were going to favour. It's the same with Kimi at Mercedes, I think.
So do the new regs mean that that's a bit more feasible, building a car around a driver that's a different driver?
Well, perhaps they're starting from a clean slate, but George has been around for a while now. He's a known entity. Like he's very, very good. But do Mercedes think he will be better than Kimi's potential? So I think Kimi's potential they must rate very highly. So how long do you stay when you're probably going to end up being the second consideration?
The number two again.
Yeah, it might only take another year, and then life's going to get tough.
Another interesting point, which and it's a little bit late in the play, but Red Bull actually put a request for an exemption to the FIA for Arvid Lindblad, who it turns 18 in August, but asking them to waive the 18-year-old exemption for his license.
Lindblad,
so
yeah. Lindblad's he's really good, and they rate him pretty highly. So, but they need someone who's a potential Max replacement. But again, it's it took years for Max to develop into the driver he is. Like it took a while, and it'll take everyone a while, like Kimi. So yeah, see, if Max still leaves, who are they left with? So they'd have to promote Hadjar or get a top driver from another team to remain competitive.
To be fair, they thought Lawson was the answer, so
Well, they've been trying a few, haven't they? I don't know. Hadjar's been doing really well, but I thought you you wouldn't advise him to go to the Red Bull team in a hurry. Like, you give the kid time. You give people time to get settled in, do a year of F1, learn the ropes, and then maybe consider a move.
You'd consider it next year with the new setup.
Maybe, yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
So it is interesting that they've made that request, given that he turns 18 in August. So, it's a question as to whether or not they're preparing for Max losing a point, and so therefore not being able to race for one event. So they need to be able to fill that seat, and they want to have 4 full seats for the number 1 and number 2 team.
So I was just thinking during the week just about Oscar Piastri and how he's going. Obviously, he's doing quite well, and he's a talent. But I got to thinking about how he's going to be.
Yes,
for a young fella.
What are we? We're not even. We're a third of the way through the season.
Wait for it, Huppy. Wait for it.
in 2 rounds we are halfway done. Halfway.
Okay, rightio. So he's got it. He's a Cam Waters. So no, look. All I wonder, like, obviously Oscar is a very, very calm and collected unit and personality, and I just wonder how he's going to be remembered as a driver, or if he wins the championship. Oh, I shouldn't say when he wins the championship this year. What he's going to be like as a memorable personality on the track, because he's, you look at the likes of, Lewis, who's, often making the fashion statements, and Max, who's very outspoken and quite boisterous, and a lot of other drivers that are very, interesting is the wrong word. I won't say interesting, but a little bit more.
You got Valtteri Bottas with
higher
the mullet.
Yeah,
You're saying memorable personalities, Dan.
Yeah, and look, Oscar's great, right? He's a great driver, but just I kind of wonder what he's going to be remembered as a driver.
Will he fade to obscurity is the question.
Lots and lots of accolades to his name, because he's going to probably do a lot there, but yeah.
Now go, Huppy.
Good question. If I was Oscar, I wouldn't care. I'd point to the scoreboard. Welcome to try and take it off me, but that's a world championship, mate. No, I think it takes him a little while to come out of his shell. He's getting more confident, and I haven't seen a lot of social media that he's done, but he's got a good sense of humor. He's no Dan Ricciardo, and he's not getting out there doing the stuff like you mentioned that Valtteri is doing, but he doesn't have to. Like, not every driver does that.
And mind you, like, that's probably working in his favor to not be out and outspoken. Like, like you hear a lot of talk about Lando, and I think it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? You get out and you say stuff on social media, and then you hear some stuff, and then it gets in your head, and then all of a sudden you're going, well, now I just can't. I'm struggling with the mental side of things, whereas I think Oscar just fortifies his thought processes and his mental game, and just does the task at hand and gets on it in a very clean and neat fashion.
Yeah, nothing seems to affect him too much. He seems very calm and focused and down to earth. So that's what he's remembered as. Good on him.
To Happy's point, and to answer from my perspective, Schwags, is if Oscar went through and just won this championship and then did nothing else, he'd probably be remembered as a world champion, not one of the great world champions. Whereas if he goes through and continues to develop and get better and better and better, and wins multiple world championships, that's what he'll be remembered for, or seen as. He'll be able to write his ticket for anything that he wants to do in motorsport going forward, and be remembered as one of the greats.
Yeah, he'll be giving Max a lift in his jet.
There's only similarity I can think of in recent history is probably Nico Rosberg, who battled really hard against Hamilton. Like, as KT was saying before, he used every trick in the book to try and maximise his chance to beat Hamilton in that Mercedes to win a world title. He wasn't outgoing. Didn't do a lot of social media stuff. He's not a Dan Ricciardo, and he battled hard. He won the world championship and literally just did the mic drop and walked away after one title, because that's his only goal. He worked extremely hard to do it for years and beat who he thought was probably the best driver around in Lewis Hamilton. Now, when we think about recent world champions, all the talk is about Hamilton, Verstappen, you've got Vettel. Rosberg doesn't tend to get a mention, but he did slip a title in there. Yeah. If Oscar ended up the same, yeah, okay, maybe he would, but at the end of the day, he won the world championship in F1. So, bloody hell, I'd take that. Anyone would take that. But he's got
as
every,
Australians, we won't forget it.
he's got every chance of if he can do it once, then, I think being able to do something like that once, beat your teammate and everyone else, you would have a very, very strong belief that you could go and do it again and, pick up more if he wants to continue. Everyone was surprised when Rosberg did the mic drop and retired. He's obviously happy. That was what he wanted to do, but it's a pretty rare thing in motorsport to win one title at the peak and then just retire.
Given Piastri's age, there's no way he'll retire if he wins this year anyway. He'll keep going for sure.
I can't see him doing that at all.
And then it comes down to whether McLaren are in the process of building the dynasty, and the new car regs will test that. I mean, it'll test every team.
Yeah.
But whether this is the, I mean, Zach keeps saying it's, the longer picture, but whether it's a 5 to 7 year strong team.
Yeah, exactly.
And Lockie, to your point, Nico Rosberg retired from Formula at the age of 31. Oscar is 24. So if you think about it from that perspective, we've seen this is his third season, and we've just seen that exponential rise in his performance. He's got better and better and better. If he wins a world championship this year, he's still got another 6 years of development. I'm talking about improvement.
Yeah.
And he can race until, you look at Lewis.
You're saying we've got another
racing.
Schumacher on our hands. Is that what you're saying? Like you're predicting it already. You've made the call. It's going to be ahead of Schumacher. Is that what we're saying? Or?
What I'm saying is we've got someone who has shown continuous improvement, and he learns from every mistake he makes. He's not rattled by the mistakes he makes, so he'll just get better and better and better. If he takes a championship this year, which there's every chance that he can, it is a fight between himself, his teammate, and look, Max Verstappen as well. We've got to remember that there's not a lot separating those three. It's 43 points between all of them. Even Russell is only 62 points off the lead as well. So there's some real battles to be had there. But if he's able to keep it clean, keep the points, if he gets to the middle of this season with at least a win under his belt, if not a bit more, he's going to position himself really well for the remainder of the year, and he'll be the hunted. So win this. He's got 6 years where he can just continue to just knock it out. And based on his history so far, all he's shown us is continuous improvement.
I mean, there's been a lot been said about how much of a student of the sport Oscar is. Like, he just continually learns and improves and does better.
And he knows how to win a championship. Don't forget that although he had a year off in Formula One while he waited for an opportunity, the 3 years prior, he won every category on the way up. So he knows how to battle for a championship. The big question is, he's obviously improving, but where is that ceiling? Like how good can he become? Like Lando's the older or the more experienced driver in that team. And it looks like this year that Oscar has developed past Lando. So that'd be also worrying to Lando, but how great can he be? I don't know.
Well, then you look and go potentially next year, if they all get a reset because they've all got a new platform, a new car, new engines, all that sort of thing, you're going, well, that's another chance for Piastri to continue to learn, to continue to evolve. And that might be his next 3 to 4 years of learning and getting better and better through there as well.
Perhaps, yeah. But, I mean, you also want two drivers in the team that want similar feel and have a similar driving style, to maximize that package. You don't want one driver who loves a real pointy car and another one who doesn't. Like that will make things tough. Yeah, maybe. Yep. Maybe. So, and the risk then is that, perhaps the car goes more towards Lando and Lando can be more confident in the car and get the most out of it next year. So there's a risk next year for every driver in every team that fortunes might turn around.
But Oscar feels like the one who's going to do a better job of learning it, like in getting it.
Maybe, yeah. The thing is with McLaren, though, they've got both of these guys locked onto longer term contracts. So they're committed really to both. They're not putting Lando on a 1-1-1 contract at the moment. They're not doing it for Oscar either. So what do? They have to, that's the problem with McLaren is, we'll let them race. It's all fair. Everyone gets the same equipment, blah, 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 blah. But that's not always how Formula One works. And it's not always the best way to operate a Formula One team.
I mean, what's good for them right now is that for the next 3 to 4 years, they don't have to be thinking about contracts and renewals and teams and who's going to be driving next year. It's just us now, and this is all we can think about.
As long as their drivers are happy and they give them a good car, like there's always a way out of a contract. But yeah, you're right. They're both committed.
Well, they're still sorting out to see who's actually going to be the number one driver. At the moment, it looks like it's going to be Oscar, but that could turn around the second half and Lando could come back if he gets his head right, and all of a sudden, he overtakes Oscar and off he goes again. So at the minute, they're hedging their bets both ways with the drivers because there's no clear winner for a season yet.
If Oscar wins the championship and his stock continues to rise, his value continues to rise, and there's no reason why another team with big dollars might not say, you know what, we're happy to make McLaren an offer to pay out his contract and get him over here. And McLaren could consider something like that, perhaps. I don't know. So things can always change, but yeah, so far he's doing well. We'll see where his ceiling is. And anyway, unabashed Oscar fan here. Hope he does well this round. But I guess that's probably going to lead us into a discussion
Probably
about
a good lead in for you to give us your predictions, Happy. Good job.
Absolutely. All right. Well, given that we've got the race coming up, and Happy, you've decided to put your weight behind Oscar. Let's jump into our predictions and see who we think is going to be pole, first, second, and third for the Austrian Grand Prix.
Well, as a shock to everyone, I'm going to go Oscar for pole.
Oh my God!
You ready for this? Now for the race winner,
Who can guess?
I'm going to go Oscar again.
Oh jeez!
Can't believe that.
I will go Lando second.
I thought you were going to go Oscar for second as well.
No. If I
Clean
could, I
sweep,
would.
man. Oscar
I
for
could, I
third. He's
would.
just going to take them all out. Yep.
We'll see if there's a rule change next year. But for now, Oscar for first, Lando for second, and third again will be tough to predict. But I'm going to go with Max.
Okay.
It's hard to go against Max at this track. It really is.
Oh, Max is doing. He's always there.
It's hard
he's
to go against Max, especially in Austria.
You watch a race and not a time goes by. Oh, you got to watch out because here comes Max or Verstappen,
Multiple world champion in his prime.
Yeah, and of course, like for perfect reason. But yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, surprise. They're my predictions.
All good now.
I think Christian had already written those down anyway.
Well, no, it's not. It's actually not a copy and paste because it's been up 3 races ago. The last 2 rounds. So
it's just a sort.
Yep.
Yeah, how'd that work out for you in points, Happy? Yeah.
Not good. So I'm going back to what I should have
how'd
picked in the
that
first
work out
place. Who's next?
Right.
Who's pulling a rabbit out of a hat this week?
As you mentioned,
here we go. The hat of destiny for Schwag.
Right, are we? Well, I got nothing to lose. I'm just going to do the thing because here's the thing: like I'm not doing any good on my own, and with valid thought. So
and you did well with the hat last week.
Is this the same 10 names that you had last round?
It is actually because the top 10 hasn't changed, so I've left that. I mean,
Okay.
Just to clarify, you didn't throw a joker in and put Stroll in there as a wild card or anything like that? Or
Actually, I probably should put a joker in there just so I can pick someone.
So we did maths together in high school, and we did probability. So
it's a 1 in 10 if it helps you, Happy.
You are aware that you actually got some fairly lucky bits of paper out of that hat last round. The odds are not going to be the same. Okay, all right, go. Go.
There was no editing. Like there was no validation of the names, though, was there?
No, we laughed hard. Don't get me wrong.
This time, show the camera, and we want to see what.
Show the camera. I showed you the names. I just didn't show you. Well, I've just tossed.
Let's not mess with this process because it worked last year.
Which order are we doing? Are we doing
pole first? Here we go.
I'll go top to bottom, and then
pole, and then first, second, third.
Well, there you go. Top to bottom.
Lando Norris.
Lando pole, right?
Can they put it back in? Oh, okay. All right.
He's got the race in. Donkey.
I'm waiting for him to put all of them back in. Keep going.
All of them back in.
All right. Number 1 is going to be
Esteban
Ocon. Come from behind victory.
You could get points.
Stranger things have happened.
I'm going to order that rabbit's foot pretty soon.
In second place will be.
This is the probability thing I was talking about.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah, this isn't a good week for me.
Alex Albon.
Yeah, no,
I've got to trust the process.
They've been doing all right. They could do okay.
Are they predicting rain? Right. Is there any rain coming?
No.
30
degrees for a dry weekend.
No. Yeah, it's been
20% chance of rain, 28 degrees.
Earthquakes or anything? There's
ideal for racing conditions. Not close enough for your liking.
Oh, well. And Lando's coming third.
Well, actually,
you could get points for that one.
That is not such a silly prediction.
I won't get many points.
Do you get 1 point for
the
third?
other 2 aren't crash hot.
Is it 3 for first, 2 for second, and 1 point for third?
3 for first, 2 for second, and 1 for third. Yes.
All right. So you could be on for a point.
And pole?
That's good. You might move forward.
1 point for pole.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Lando could definitely get pole, so that's good.
All right, Lockie, do you want me to go next? Because you got something special lined up for us.
I'm not. You can go. You go next, and I'll go last this week. That's fine.
All right. Well. I mean, I'm going to be really boring. I'm just doubling down on my predictions from last week. So, for me, Oscar for pole, Oscar for first. I'm going George Russell for second, given his performance last year, and then Charles Leclerc for third.
So you think Max and Lando are going to tangle again or something?
I think something. I've got to double down here because one of my out there predictions was that Max is going to lose his license by Silverstone. So he's got to do something
it's this
stupid.
round. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I hope he does. Lose his license, then he'll go and have a chat to Aston Martin in his free
See how
time.
that works out. Yep.
All right, Lockie, over to you.
What's the strategy?
Well, look, I had to go. I was very impressed by Schwags' methodology last week, and I thought, look, out of all the four of us, the only one to get points was going up with a different strategy. So I went back into the cupboard of tricks, and I've discovered the next greatest thing, which is going to be the Magic 8 Ball. So I thought the Magic 8 Ball might be able to help me with some predictions this week. So I asked it some questions, and the first one I asked it was, should I put Lance Stroll in my top tips? And it said, not a chance. So I've taken that out of the equation straight away. But it did sort of say, so for pole position for this one is going to be Max Verstappen. So we're going to have to put him down for pole. Unfortunately, he's not going to win the race. Oscar is going to come through and actually win the race. George is going to come second, and Verstappen is going to come through in third place. Unfortunately, Norris is going to have an altercation either off the track, according to the 8 Ball, or some pit problems. So that's just how the weekend's going to end up. So just lock those in, and I'll just take the 5 points now. Yeah.
So
it's amazing. Like it's a great piece of technology.
So every prediction that wasn't using some form of randomness has picked Oscar for first position. Dan's gone with Esteban. Oh, God.
We laugh now, but let's wait and
look.
see what happens Sunday night.
If Esteban wins this, Dan, you can laugh as much as you like, Abby. I will be very happy for
that.
you.
My God.
I'll shout your drinks down.
Happy.
We'll be fine. Yep.
Wouldn't it be funny if the Hat of Destiny actually turns around for Schwags and he takes out the entire downshift prediction?
It's not too late to book a flight to Austria and go throw some buckets of water on the track. A couple of bananas.
Just to let you know, Christian, we live in reality, mate. Just to let you know, keep out of that fantasy land. Yeah.
No, so look, with that, Formula One movie comes out this week as well. So Schwags and I are booked in to go to IMAX just before the race, so we'll be seeing it on the big screen. So next week we'll give a little bit of a review as to our thoughts on the F1 movie for those listening. For the race this weekend, Friday we've got FP1 and FP2, Saturday FP3 in qualifying, and Sunday the race is at 3 p.m. local time, which for Australian viewers will be 11 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So a respectable watch. So
we'll get together and watch that.
We'll get together and watch that one.
Are you looking forward to the movie? Because I'm honestly a little bit scared as a F1 aficionado. But
so I've heard some not chatter, but there was some reels about how much Lewis Hamilton's input into the movie was, and talk about how he was like, "Oh, that's not going to be. This is not right, and that's not right, and the car doesn't sound right on this corner." And as to how true that is, I think it's going to be pretty, well, I don't know, it might be pretty true to life for Formula One, but it might be a bit of a, I don't know, maybe a typical Hollywood story. The underdogs coming through.
There's got to be an amount of Hollywood in it, but I think that from what I've heard, the on-track car action and footage is pretty sensational. So I'm hoping to see it before.
Just switch your brain off,
well.
sit back and enjoy it, and just watch it for what it is.
I'm setting my expectations as watching this as a Hollywood film. I think for those who are F1 tragics and we've already heard that it picked up that they're using Apple computers, which none of the race teams use. It's like, who cares? That doesn't make the difference between a great F1 movie and not. If you're going to get caught up in that, don't watch the film. I'm going there just watching it for what it is meant to be a fun movie on F1, similar to a Top Gun or Maverick, and just enjoy it that way.
Yeah, it should be good, hopefully.
All right. Well, with that, make sure we've just got the one episode for this week. So make sure you like and subscribe so you're updated when the next episode drops, which will be next week, where we will be doing a review of the Austrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring and also our thoughts on the Formula One movie. Until then, we'll see you on the next lap. And that's the checkered flag for this episode of the Downshift. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us in the paddock. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss a lap. And hey, if we've earned it, drop us a 5-star review. It really helps us climb the grid and reach more motorsport fans. Tune in next time as we keep pushing flat out to bring you fresh, current, and entertaining content. Until next time, keep it fast, keep it fun, and we'll catch you on the next lap.